Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to avoid lazy negativity, we've decided to make this show a little bit of a drinking game.
Uh-oh.
So anytime we say anything negative at all about each other, about this movie, about how sex has been shuffling Dave's cards for about 50 years, you're going to hear this sound?
Yes, you are.
That sound means we're taking a drink, and we hope you drink along with us.
So, pour yourselves a glass as we explore the story of the Forrest Gump Feathers malevolent twin.
Cheers.
For real.
That's right, friends. The random year generator spun 2009. So we did a movie that sort of came out in 2013. No, we looked up a lot of movies from 2009. If you're new to the show, we like to set up the context. So we're going to go through the film news that happened in 2009. We're going to give you the world events that happened in 2009. We're going to keep it snappy, but there's a lot of good stuff to help inform when this movie came out, what inspired this movie. We were not going to do Inglourious Bastards. We've already done Avatar. We've done a lot of other things that came out this year, but it's really funny when I looked up and on Prime, which this is the theatrical cut is streaming on, it said 2013, and on IMDb it says 2009. Well, it turns out it was in the Venice Film Festival, and I think Toronto as well in 2009.
And every other
it did pretty
fucking
well.
film festival after that.
And then it came out in about 13 film festivals in 2010, and then another 20 film festivals in 2011, and then 2012, and it finally got its American and UK distribution. It said theatrical distribution. I don't even know how wide it was. It still seemed kind of limited in 2013. And of course, this movie deals with string theory and multiverse theory. So Dave was the one of being like, of all movies to come out in 5 different years. So that's Dave's joke. So anyway, we are putting it in our 2009 category, which is, of course, Mr. Nobody, starring Jared Leto, sci-fi, all over Europe. It's going to be really fun. We're going to talk about it. Again, it's available on Prime right now. There is a director's cut. We looked into it. We decided not to do it. We did the free theatrical cut, which is only 15 minutes shorter, and it's actually literally the amalgamation of about 45 different 8-second clips that were cut out of the other one to literally just shorten scenes and no side plots or anything. So we decided to go theatrical. That's my speech about that. John, you want to shout our sponsors out, and then we can get this thing going? Dave and I are going to do a quick mini review too, but let's do these sponsors.
Yeah, sure. We have some sponsors. Carlos Barroso makes beer. Sometimes he makes them for us. You can find his handle in the show notes. It's cbarroso.beer. We also have a musician who has very kindly donated their music to this episode and every single episode. That musician's name is Dasein, Dasein. You can find their music available on all the usual music platforms. You can also find that link in the show notes as well. Go listen, enjoy. You're welcome. Woo.
Yeah. All right. Anything you guys want to talk about before like we said, people would like to drink a little bit, get the drinks flowing?
This is the last week of my donation counter before I actually pull the pin and do the donation and change who I'm donating to. And we're up to $56.
Oh, wow.
$56 you're sending to the Los Angeles.
Somehow about equal with the amount I'd spend on beer. Good beer. Now it's good beer.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when Carlos doesn't give us the free beer.
Well, I'm certainly not spending that money on fucking Foster's.
Crikey.
Yeah, sorry, Dave. It's very expensive to ship Cutter beer over here, especially non-alcoholic Cutter beer. Actually, I was at brunch yesterday. Very fancy place. It was like $18 signature cocktails. The non-alcoholic cocktails were $16. I was like, what world do we live in now? What happened? What's
juice and herbs?
Yeah, you're paying you're paying for the love. It's like,
love, sure.
Can you make that non-alcoholic cocktail? No, fucking $16.
Well, yeah,
everything
also,
is
no outside food. $60.
More expensive. Is the food scene more expensive over there now than it was when I was living there before the pandemic? Because LA is more expensive than I remember in New York.
Yeah. It's crept up.
Yeah, it's like, it's terrible.
Well, but we all met. We lived together in Astoria, New York, which was kind of a suburb. It's right across the river, so it's very accessible to Midtown and other places in the city, in Manhattan. But that was the place where they would have $4 or $5 beer nights and such, because it was just a little bit outside. And then all of a sudden, everywhere you went, it was like $10 beers. And you're like, wait, we're not in Midtown anymore.
We're not up to that in Astoria yet. They're still a little cheaper.
All right, well, Dave knows all the spots.
Dave still knows.
I'll call bullshit a little bit. All right. Dave and I are going
What
to
are
do
we
a mini
doing?
review. Johnny, anything you want to talk about before we do our mini review? While we get these drinks flowing, while we get them settled in our bellies?
I want 5 bullet points telling me about your accomplishments over the past week.
No. Oh, okay, cool.
Go
No
fuck
buzzes, though.
yourself. Oh, shit. I've only got 4. I'm fired.
Honestly, dude. Unbelievable. I thought I will just bitch about this for a second. I saw some clip, and I guess this is ultimately all we can really hope for while they're doing this madness. I think it was a senator from Utah who got interviewed, and he just said, like, I would just like to see them do this with a little more compassion. He's a Republican senator. He was just saying, you know, like,
Right.
just shots of him with a chainsaw. Like,
Yeah.
These are people who have jobs and lives and stuff. Like, it's not cool. This isn't fucking Silicon Valley where everybody you fired at Twitter probably got just as good of a job somewhere else. That's not the same fucking thing. So I'm starting to like really be bothered by
Like
that cognitive dissonance.
If you're an air
The
traffic
country is
controller,
failing, but also they're pretending is true. Like, fuck that shit, dude. It's so rude. Stop being rude.
if you're an air traffic controller, where the fuck else do you go? Like, what else are you doing?
Yeah.
And
Also, this is what you were trained for.
to
We
be
definitely need more
honest,
of.
like we're
Donald
going
Trump has
to
said we needed more.
we're going to New Orleans later in the year, and I'm not lying. I looked up prices for fucking trains because I don't want to get on a plane anymore.
Everybody's a little scared. We just booked a flight too. I mean, yeah, we could talk about that too.
We just booked a flight too. Yeah. Also, but I have to say, and okay,
Anyway.
this will be the last thing I say about this. What do we say? Okay, I just read an article. And the legit sources, Politico, the reason that names of these institutions matter is because they fact check, because it's not bullshit. It's not Twitter, it's not TikTok, it's Politico that matter. They fact check their story. They care about the truth. They talked about an IRS agent who voted for Trump 3 times, and he was fired. And he was mad because he said he figured with his business acumen, this is Trump, he would use a fine-tooth comb to find where the IRS could be running better. And so the fact that they would fire him blew his mind.
Yeah.
And it's like, at a certain point, I need to know, I just feel like I need to know, it's not fun for people who have been saying, I told you so for 10 years. It's not fun to just be like, I don't want him to suffer. You know, I don't want to say that you deserve this. I don't want teachers who voted for Trump to get mad when they have Department of Education cuts, things that we've literally been saying for 10 years are going to happen. But what do we do? Like, we can't just sit there and be like, I know. At a certain point, you have to fucking shake people up and rile them up and be like, do you realize that your actions had this consequence? You know, I'm not trying to rub it in your face, but like, if people don't learn that lesson, that it's their fault, you know, and I'm sure I'm at fault for a lot of things. But if you are an IRS agent and you voted for Trump and then you got fired, you can't blame anybody else. You have to blame yourself. You have to. He said he was going to go to the IRS and fucking ransack the whole place. And liberals have been saying they're doing it to make sure that rich people can hide their taxes. It is not about the working class. And here is this guy who still bought the book. And teachers, like, at a certain point, how do you fucking shake them up? How do you do it? What do you guys think?
I completely agree. I think part of the thing that's been so frustrating is the lack of mea culpa.
Yeah.
Like, and I understand that, like, I guess it was kind of unresolved because so many people who ended up voting for him or were always supportive of him and them were genuinely believing they were going to get another term out of it. So now we're in it. So now I think we actually, you know, unless I'm not even entertaining the idea of, you know, a third term. So like now is the time where part of the resistance does need to be, we fucking told you so. And, you know, like we're reaping what you sowed, bitch.
Yeah.
So like now, like just welcome to the fucking problem that you've created. And man, I still repeat what I said last week because I still think this is going to be the real straw. He's going to defy the courts, and when that happens, we need to go straight up network. I'm mad as hell and I can't take it anymore. Like when that happens, people need to feel comfortable.
Hey, at least we stuck a movie reference in there.
Stop. Yeah, sure.
Yes, Dave.
Sure.
Very good.
And
I talked about Judgment in Nuremberg last week.
You're right. I know it's political, but at the same time, we can't ignore it. You can't ignore it.
Yeah,
you gotta say it. Sorry, people.
No.
Sorry if you feel
Driving
tapped
me
out of your political
insane, dude.
Me too.
Who won the Germany election?
Conservatives.
That shit was happening today, right?
Conservatives won. Conservatives won.
Is that the party that Elon was
far right came second.
Second.
That's
the
right.
far right came second. God damn it.
Yeah,
What fucking world are we living in?
It was 30% to 20%. It's like,
did you see Steve Bannon fucking Sig Heil the other day?
Oh yeah.
God almighty. What the fuck, you guys? What the fuck?
yeah.
Well, and he did it while talking about a third term because he said we need to finish the job. By the way, he still has 4 years left, so we don't need to worry about him finishing the job. You got 4 years left.
Yeah.
You don't have to say, we need another term. If you're saying there, be like, we need 4 years isn't enough for him to finish the job, then it's like, what? All right, I can't even speak coherently anymore because my brain's a fucking pretzel. It's literally, he was inaugurated on the 20th, so it has been less than 5 weeks.
I know, it really is. Makes me want to throw up. A lot has happened. Stay tuned.
Do you remember when Greg Abbott is opposed to DEI? By the way, I think people are focusing on the diversity too much. Equity and inclusion are part of that, which are not beholden to the diversity. It could be anything. It could be gender. It could be, I don't know, persons with disabilities. So equity inclusions basically means it's the idea that everybody has an equal shot regardless where they came from. It's not about sort of reconfiguring power or having one come with the other. And a man who literally takes a wheelchair to work, obviously, and uses ramps and uses other accessibility means to try to, again, level the playing field is opposed to DEI. We live in a farce. I
mean, DEI is basically the don't be a dick law. Everything boils down to don't be a dick, and I don't know why we haven't got it as a species yet.
I think a lot of people wanted a dick back in power, dude.
Mm.
And they got it.
They wanted that fucking...
They got it.
Yeah, they wanted that.
And when they lose their job and their eggs have doubled in price and their grocery prices are going to go up because people aren't showing up to work because they're afraid they're going to get deported. And then people are going to be like, what happened? What happened? Somebody's going to say, you fucking happened. You fucking happened.
Which, not in their defense, but to just follow that logic, it does need to come back around to the pocketbook, to that kitchen table conversation for people to think that it actually is a problem. I do still kind of agree, like that's kind of why Democrats lost this last election. So this does need to happen, unfortunately. It's just, we couldn't explain that to them because they don't like to think about it. We're all going to have to get fucked by it for them to actually believe it, which really, really, really fucking sucks because I'm afraid there's going to be toothpaste everywhere, if you know that metaphor. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just going to be so fucked.
For anyone wondering why we're still talking about this, we only each have 3 notes about this movie. Yeah. So we're just padding the episode.
Oh, come on. Do you remember when Obama came into... I'm not saying Obama was a perfect president, but do you remember when Obama came in?
Yeah, he came into office in 2009, the year of our movie.
Yeah, sure. There you go. There's a segue. The fucking can of worms that there were monkeys and worms everywhere, right? It's like coming into that year and having to like clean up and put the fucking Humpty Dumpty back together and actually make people think that there was still like a government and an FDIC that they could count on.
I just got an image of senators like throwing shit at each other.
Basically, yeah. Basically.
Yeah, you know who is the time
person? I'm saying whoever comes in next is fucked because they're not going to be able to get anything done because they're going to be just trying to band-aid.
This is the cycle. And then 4 years are going to go by and they said, what have you accomplished? For instance, our infrastructure projects, which have barely even started, were all just canceled. So now people can literally say Biden didn't do anything because the 4 years they spent
because he literally didn't
passing the bill and then getting those projects ready and all the ribbon cutting ceremonies got nothing because it was canned by the next president 4 years later. We got to move on. Are we going to cut this segment? Yeah. Are we going to keep it? No, we're not. We're not going to have Greenland. Oh my God. Okay. The only way we have Greenland is if our best friends Russia invade it. Are we cutting this out of the segment or not?
No. This is going in.
Oh boy. Be kind, Elon. Come on.
My mini review is The Gorge. Dave already talked about The Gorge very briefly at the end of the last episode. Directed by Scott Derrickson, who Dave loves from Doctor Strange and other movies. Written by Zach Dean, has written a bunch of action movies.
I even talked to him on Threads occasionally.
Is that right?
Really?
We also did Fast 10 or something, right? Or is that Zach Dean wrote Fast 10? Fuck, I gotta stop doing my research before Zach Dean wrote, or at least gave some story for it.
You're not the president.
Scott went to the same film school I went to.
Really? He was a little ahead of your time, I think, though.
Just probably not that much older than me.
He went to the same film school. How can he afford to make films?
Honestly.
Yes, that's another thing. From the Independent Spirit Wars, come on. You gotta love Sean Baker's speech.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Now, of course, it comes down and there's like, we need to be... He won Best Director at the Film Independent Spirit Awards last night.
And he basically said, unless you're like Damien Leone and strike gold with like Terrifier or something, you're basically working for free for 3 years.
And he's like, indie movies are gone, and those are only like personal projects.
Because there's no DVD.
You need to get your series. You need to get your whatever. Yeah. So, and the distribution thing, Matt Damon has gone viral with that, talking about the '90s models and stuff. But anyway, the only thing about it though is that then he was like, we need to be paid a lot up front, and it's like, okay, you lost me, bro. You're making a really good case, and of course you need to be paid up front, but by who? That's the whole thing. It's like he's talking about financial models, and then at the end he's like, we just need to be paid, and it's like, okay. I didn't go A to Z with you there. It was a really good speech until he said that. And it's like, but who's paying you? You literally just said there's no financial model for it. So who's going to be giving you the money? I feel like he lost his argument right there. But 99% of that speech was really good. And people should be worried.
Is he saying he didn't take a fee?
I'm sure he did for this one. Or if he did, it was probably small.
But he's talking about indie directors starting out.
He basically said the average movie takes 3 years to film. You work on it for 3 years, and he's like, most of us probably work on it for more. And he's like, he basically said, if I had a family, I wouldn't have been able to have this career. He's like, if I had kids and I had to afford. Okay, anyway, what are we talking about? We're talking about The Gorge. Dave, you liked it. I like it too. I would just say this: it's just really watchable. So it's one of those movies where like the premise could have been a bigger, more in-depth spy espionage kind of thing, or it could have been just dumber, like The Wall that John and I saw Blaze Out of Our Minds once. And so it's the love story was quick and it was just really watchable. It was just really fun. I really don't know how you can say much more about it than that. Like it's really those creatures.
Do you think it should have ggone to theatrical, or you think it was the right move to go straight?
No.
Actually, I think it came out on February 14th. But given the tone, I'm not sure how good it is for a date movie, because the first half is really cute and like their chemistry is amazing, but the second half is like fucking creatures coming out of the woodwork. So
I did have that feeling of like, so this is the rest of the movie.
You'd be like, yeah, this is great. I'm in. No, I'm not.
But yeah,
she's never talking to me again.
Two people with sexual chemistry, like with a gorge in between them, who are basically have nothing in life other than now this gorge in the two of them. It's pretty cool. That was pretty cute. Yeah, I could see that little, the romance. The gorge could be metaphoric for some kind of romantic tension. And then it was this creature movie, and it's good. It's fun, watchable movie. Definitely good to watch at home. Start it, pause it, go get some dinner, start it up again the next day.
Not a great review. not really bringing it home there.
Did I lose my
The Gorge.
Did I lose my credibility?
There you go.
I made up projects at the
start it, stop it. Don't need to finish it. Up to you.
It's just a very watchable movie.
You don't even have to have your eyes on the screen. It's just it can be playing.
I would recommend having your eyes on the screen.
You could be driving a car. You could be.
All right, guys. I don't have any gripes. We griped. Do you want to get into our?
I have kind of the opposite of a gripe, and I feel like I should
anti-gripe. Dave's famous anti-gripes.
I feel like I should point this out because after last year we released a little bit of it. We went back after the Deadpool screening. We went back and cut a video together of everything we said about AMC over the last couple of years.
Okay,
and. Do I need to start the timer for this?
Let's start the gripe timer.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Sure. Yeah.
And
did they listen?
It was vicious, and I want to say I've been to AMC Times Square 5 times now, and it's been perfect. Like
it's 5 in a row.
5 in a row. Not a single issue, man. The projectors look great. The theaters are clean. The service of the candy bar was great. Everything like there's not a single issue.
Wow.
So I feel like
AMC.
I should just go AMC. You have Times Square has fucking redeemed itself.
Yeah, we're gushing you.
Wow.
Yeah.
AMC Times Square is back on the map. How about that? Dave, I'm so happy for you.
Just don't go to Cinema 11. No, I'm kidding.
I went to I want to say this. I'll also prop up AMC here. I went to one in Burbank. There are 2 over there, and I usually go to this much larger one that has like a lot more screens and it has the big formats, of course. This other one is much smaller and does not have the large formats, and it looks like it was not always an AMC, like classic old movie theater design. You walk down escalators to get to it. It's just a few theaters. So I saw it in just one of their, quote, regular theaters. It wasn't prime or anything. And it looked and sounded fantastic. The seats were really comfortable. Mm-hmm. It was one of the bigger screens. It wasn't like the largest regular one, but good size. And it really was a really good viewing experience. It was the first time I kind of consciously thought the last few times I've been in like a regular non-large format, it's been a little underwhelming. This sounded and looked really good. It was like kind of incentivized me again to be like, right, I guess I don't have to see everything in IMAX or Dolby unless, if it doesn't absolutely need to be seen in there. I used to just do that because I was nervous I was going to have a bad, weird speaker experience or not a great laser projector.
I usually go I used to go to the premiere ones because you get those with A-list and you get less people fucking around in the theater. But then everyone got A-list and people would just come in and sit down and treat it like their fucking living room. But even that's kind of eased back a little.
Gotta hope so. Is the world getting a little bit better? Except for you, Elon.
Not right now.
Come on, man.
No. No, these are cheap thrills.
All right.
Let's talk about 2009.
Quite a
ready?
year.
What a year.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So 2009 is well, here I'll say this. We always start with the box office here, but I'll give you I want to do this first this time. Where is it? Fuck is my 2009 list here. Okay, my iPad. Shut the fuck up. Fuck it. Okay, here we go.
Who are you fighting, dude?
Harry. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Film critic Philip French of The Guardian said that well, he kept saying things like there were a couple movies that are forgotten or vaguely regarded as semi-classics. It's like, okay, that seems like a little half-ass compliment.
Yeah.
He had another couple. He said there were a bunch of indifferent films, a lot of undistinguished films for an overall mostly undistinguished year for Hollywood.
Oof.
And then
I can't really disagree. We had a lot of trouble picking a movie.
He said remakes and sequels abounded, none of any merit. My God. So, we kind of hate on the critics a lot of times, but ultimately, as far as like how the year 2009 is, that is something. Because
what was it you said that the pickings were so slim? We picked a movie that came out in 2013.
Yeah. Look at us, Dave. We're exchanging jokes this week. We're writing each other's jokes in.
I know.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, of course, the number one movie at the box office was.
If we ever actually try that, don't read out anything I've written. You'll get cancelled.
You're right. Fuck you. All right.
You sort of already said it, so it's got to be Half-Blood Prince. Harry Potter?
Avatar?
No? Oh,
yes,
Avatar. Of course. Yeah, I forgot.
I rarely get
That's
these.
Right. Dave got it.
That was the year I used to throw Oscar parties and we introduced blue tequila shots for Avatar. So like we DVR the fucking
Pandora juice
thing. And because in Australia we got it at a different time. So we DVR it. Everyone would have to swear off social media. And then we play it and pause and everyone would pick their winner. And if you didn't get it, you had to drink. But that year, if you picked Avatar and Avatar didn't win, you had to do a blue tequila shot. And if you picked something else and Avatar won, you had to do a blue tequila shot. So there was a lot of blue tequila shots flying around.
What are you doing? What are you doing this year for Honora and the Brutalist?
I'm going to get some scissors.
Some Tishka beer from Poland. No, it's Hungarian. Are they Hungarian Jews or Polish Jews? I can't remember. I'm seeing
Hungarian
it this week. Okay, well, forget. I don't know any Hungarian beers.
That's where the AI argument came in because they used the AI on the Hungarian.
Just tuned up
Budapest.
Just tuned up a couple accents. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, Avatar came out. It became the highest grossing movie of all time, passing Titanic by January. This movie came out, I think, late November or maybe early December. So it took about a month and a half to pass Titanic. Not too bad. And the second movie of all time to make $2 billion. It now sits at $2.923 billion. So Endgame.
For the Avatar 3 re-release, it's going to crack $3 billion.
Yeah. Well, we just did this with we just talked about Endgame, which we did 2019 very recently. And Avatar Endgame passed Avatar, but then Avatar passed it back. I believe when they re-released Avatar before The Way of Water, the second Avatar movie. I believe they did a re-release, and some people could do a double feature, which I'm sure Mark did because he just fucking loves fucking.
Yeah, never re-released Endgame. So, right, if that happened,
as far as I know, no. As far as I know.
So yeah,
you know how I know because I went and saw Endgame 3 weeks after it opened, and the theater was empty. So,
yeah, there you go.
Big rush to go see that one. Yeah.
The first weekend though. What a weekend. Half-Blood Prince was number 2 there, John, at $929 million. The second highest grossing picture. This is the 6th book and 6th movie. The 8th movie, the second half of the 7th book, of course, would be the highest grossing, Deathly Hallows Part 2. Ice Age, Dawn of the Dinosaurs comes in at number 3 at $886 million. Transformers, cool. Revenge of the Fallen comes in at $836. Wow. Was this the summer blockbuster this year? Was that the one? When we did 2009, that was
I don't think
right?
It was Fallen, was it? Was it Fallen?
Well, we didn't do Harry Potter or Ice Age Dawn of the Dinosaurs. So what the fuck else did we do when we did our summer blockbuster face-off? We took the biggest summer blockbusters and put them up against each other. I thought we did Revenge of the Fallen.
Maybe.
I think it was 2009.
God, did we? I don't remember that.
We'll have
Number
to go back
5,
and listen
you
to
guys
it.
look it up. Number 5 was 2012. The disaster movie 2012 made $757 million. And I feel like people give it a bad rap, that movie. I will say most of that movie. I will say most of that money came outside of the U.S. Almost 600 million of that 757 came outside of the U.S. So I think just the image of New York sinking underwater got a lot of people to the theater.
Yeah. Who knew all they had to do was wait?
Terminator Salvation? Is that what we did?
I don't know. Anyway, to finish out the top 10, we have Up came in at number 6, and I remember seeing Up in theaters, and that's fucking awesome. Wow. Up. The Twilight Saga New Moon, Sherlock Holmes, Angels and Demons, and The Hangover, believe it or not, comes in at number 10. That's right. A comedy comes in at almost $500 million. The Hangover, number 10. Yeah, Night at the Museum, Smithsonian made some money. The J.J. Abrams Star Trek reboot, that first one came in at $386 million. Got a little franchise restarted there. Alvin and the Chipmunks, The Squeakquel came out. That might have been one of those sequels that critic didn't like very much. We'll talk about other movies that came out this year. But another thing that came out, so 2009 was the year that the Oscars switched to having up to 10 movies you could nominate instead of 5 for the first time since 1943. But what happened from the year before, and this had been a trickling effect, this happened with the There Will Be Blood year and such, is that the backloading of movies to get Oscars of everybody dumping in November, December was getting really bad. So actually for the first couple months of 2009, and again, this is a trend that was not too uncommon with this year, is so many of the movies for the Oscars actually had their national release in 2009. So The Reader, Slumdog Millionaire, Che, Frost Nixon, Revolutionary Road, The Wrestler, Gran Torino, and The Curious Case of Benjamin Button all came out with their wide releases in 2009. And so that like ate up a lot at the beginning of this year in 2009. Yeah, isn't that weird?
Jesus. That is really fucking weird, yeah.
And then, yeah, you had a lot of disaster movies, a lot of sequels that just kind of didn't do too well. Then the indie movies kind of found their way. And Inglourious Basterds seemed to be the best of a lot of different worlds. Yeah, so let's just do a quick little awards recap here. It was basically The Hurt Locker versus Avatar was the big one. And I think people kind of knew going in that James Cameron won all those Oscars for Titanic. So it seemed like Catherine Bigelow, his ex-wife, oh my God, was going to win Best Director. And then, of course, Best Picture for The Hurt Locker, which would go on to be the case. Jeff Bridges would win for Crazy Heart. Sandra Bullock would win for The Blind Side. I feel like history has remembered that not too well as like the best.
I can't imagine James Cameron doing a very successful schmooze campaign.
I'm sure he was just pitching the special effects to get his other like technical people their awards, which they won. They won 3 technical awards.
Rightly so.
Christoph Waltz and Monique both won every imaginable award for those supporting roles, and Monique very famously didn't campaign. Yeah, that's true. Because Precious came out this year. You guys remember Precious?
Yep.
So Gabourey Sidibe was, of course, nominated this year as well for Precious. And Mark Bowl would win for The Hurt Locker for writing it. And adapted screenplay, a lot of people thought it was going to be Up in the Air, but it wasn't. It actually went to... I lost my spot. Where is it? Oh, Precious. Really went to Precious. Dick. And also Up won Best Animated Film. And Michael Giacchino, I always thought he had multiple Oscars. I thought he won for Ratatouille, but he actually lost in 2007 to Atonement, which also, There Will Be Blood, I don't even know if it was nominated, but yeah, Atonement beat Ratatouille, but Michael Giacchino won for Up. And I mean, come on. That score for Up. I mean, goddamn. And he already had an Emmy for Lost. Pretty good. So Giacchino, go fucking get him. A couple other movies of note that came out here this year that you guys want to call it. Wolverine, X-Men Origins Wolverine came out this year.
And so did
Fast and Furious.
Did you guys see that? The work print?
And no, but that is funny.
Somebody stole the unfinished work print from the VFX company and released it on the internet. So you got the Wolverine film, but every now and then it would cut to just the previs for some of the effects sequences. I'm like, why would you watch that?
I did see some clips of that. I don't know why.
The first Paranormal Activity came out this year, which I believe is still the record for the highest grossing film based on its numbers. So I think it made $10,000 to make, or it cost $10,000 to make, and it made $194 million. So I think that's the highest, like, X of all time.
Yeah, it's like a camera on a tripod and done.
Watchmen, Paul Blart Mall Club, The Princess and the Frog came out this year, and Michael Jackson's This Is It did come out this year.
This is it.
Because that is the year that he passed away. Michael Jackson did pass away here. Any movies that you want to shout out, you two?
Yeah, sure. This is the year of A Serious Man, the Coen brothers, and A Single Man, Tom Ford. I really like both those movies. The Men movies. The first time I saw The Fourth Kind, I enjoyed that horror movie. I've only seen it. I think I've seen it twice now, and the second time it just didn't land the same way, but that was a fun horror movie. If you've never seen it, I think you'll have a good singular watch, at least. Maybe you'll enjoy it more than I did the second time around.
Just trigger warning, if you have a problem with anything happening to your eyes, you're going to be looking away at one point.
Sure. A lot of things might scare you about that one.
Yeah, like, fuck no, I'll never watch that again.
Oh, come on. We did do the Transformers movie. I looked that up. This is also the year, and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the original. The Nordic one
very nice.
Yeah, that came out.
Swedish
launched
movie.
And then Fincher would remake his version of that. Antichrist came out. Did you mention that? I can't remember if you mentioned that.
I don't think so, actually.
No, we did talk about Antichrist.
Yeah. And Human Centipede came out. Jesus Christ, what the problem? What the fuck is wrong with people?
Yeah.
Dom and the Gang, Fast and the Furious. I love those people. All right, that's it. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'll say too, 500 Days of Summer basically gave us, Joseph Gordon-Levitt had a huge renaissance after that. So that was good for him. And then Zombieland. Okay, cool. Let's do a couple world events here. I mentioned Michael Jackson passing away, but I think the biggest news of 2009 is Grindr was launched to the public in 2009. Dave?
I've deleted my account.
Oh, yeah? Actually, when John and I worked in Fire Island at one time, there was one time where they signed up for like a Grindr competitor, and it's like you got into this like place for free if you signed up for it, but it was $20 if not. So I did have a Grindr competitor on my phone once.
I was going to say,
referencing us working at Fire Island just confused a bunch of listeners.
It wasn't fucking Bumble, was it? Because that thing tracked you like crazy.
That's right. Hey, Sweden legalizes gay marriage. There you go, John.
Jesus Christ.
In 2009. But we mentioned this before, the inauguration of Barack Obama, and he spent a lot of his first year, as you mentioned before, cleaning up a whole lot of shit that he didn't start. But while he was doing it, he also was using his, you only get 2 bills where you only need 51 votes, or 50 votes if you have your vice president, to pass, as opposed to the usual 60 vote threshold. So he used a lot of them to try to pass the Affordable Care Act, which he did eventually. And I just want to say, it was so close to having a public option. We were so close to having a public option, but the fucking death panels and all this bullshit, and we would call it disinformation now, fracture the Democratic Party that were in risky seats and had elections coming up. And of course, the donations coming in from the healthcare industry that were like, please no public option, please no public option. So it ended up being so much worse than it could have been. It still gave a lot of people insurance. You can still buy into it and have your credit and stuff. But we were so close to having a public option in 2009. What a world we would be in right now if you could have had a fucking public option of buying a Medicaid, which probably won't exist in a month anyway.
If you're going to have public health, though, you've got to kind of dial back the fucking a little. You can't have 8 kids because it just leads to massive overpopulation.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a good point, Dave. ClimateGate. 2009, October 24th, the first International Day of Climate Action, which was organized by 350.org, is a campaign to raise awareness and address the global warming crisis. I should also mention that George H.W. Bush in the fucking 80s mentioned that the planet was warming and we should probably start doing something about it. Just something to think about. The recession this year,
a lot of people have mentioned it. A lot of people have talked about it. Nobody's done anything.
That's the point. Hey, I bring my own bags to the grocery store. So I'm here.
Well, I mean, when I released Inconvenient Truth, like the whole point was, this is how bad it's going to get if you don't stop. And they didn't not only just not stop, they made it worse and fucking kept going.
Jobs,
We've
Dave.
already gone over the Celsius.
Twice.
That limit was.
we blew past 1.5 degrees about a year ago. Very quietly, but we did. And that's why we're getting extreme weather events. They were right.
There's a story that came out a month or two ago about how there are now studies that are saying because of the little bit of climate reduction we are doing, there's now not enough ozone or CO2 to protect us from danger UV. So it's actually creating more problems because there's, it's kind of like when you smoke and you stop smoking and you get super sick.
Welcome to Australia in the 80s, motherfuckers.
Oh my God. What are we going to do? Thank God we have really competent leadership.
Go and get your skin checked a lot.
I'm due actually to get my skin checked because the last time I went, the guy was writing on a yellow paper. He was like writing on a yellow pad, and then afterwards he was like, "You should go get pictures taken of these." And I was like, "I thought this is why I came to the dermatologist."
Was he
Anyway,
looking at your gonads when he said it? Or?
Yeah, he like a fucking legal pad. He was like handwriting some notes down. I was like, "Where the fuck?" And the lights were flickering in the background. I was like, "I'm just waiting for an alien to come
dude, that was a crack den. Some dude was checking out your balls.
I'm waiting for a cockroach the size of you, Dave, to come out of the fucking wall. Okay. Did you just talk about my balls?
Yes.
Okay, so Bitcoin. The Bitcoin network was created. This network created as was the first block of digital currency. How, at the time, we were like, this is fucking stupid. How much better would our lives be if we just fucking bought some Bitcoin in 2009? Much better. It's $100,000 a coin now. I think back in the day, somebody gave out like 1,000. They just had the biggest 1,000.
They just had the biggest theft ever of like $1.1 billion.
Haven't you heard the story where somebody got like 1,000 Bitcoin for like delivering a pizza, or like send me a pizza and I'll give you 1,000 Bitcoin? Like all these things, these promotions that were happening. Fucking hell, man! All I needed to do was be on Reddit in 2009. Fuck.
Yeah.
January 2009, Cristiano Ronaldo was awarded the FIFA Player of the Year. It was his first one.
Dude, if you were on Reddit in 2009, half of the discussion at the start of this episode wouldn't have happened.
That's a good point.
It's true. You would have just been freed with your brothers.
Oh my gosh, you're right. With the January 6th pardon, is that what you mean?
Oh yeah.
Actually, the Cristiano Ronaldo one was the first player from the Premier League to win this award. They had the Golden Boot. They have all these weird fucking titles for this shit. So I don't know what they're talking about. But he was playing for Manchester United at the time. Okay. Oh my gosh, guys. We were in the city. I was in the city for this. January 15th, 2009. All passengers survived a flight malfunction on the Hudson River. That's right. Sully Sullenberger happened. And we were literally eating at a place by Madison Square Garden. And we saw it. And we were like, we wanted to run to the fucking river so bad. We're like, can we go? We got to see it. It's happening right now. And they're like, no, you're not allowed to leave. We were like, okay. We stayed. I could have run out to the Hudson and seen the fucking plane. Damn it. Not crash into the water, but I could have seen it a little bit. Unix time had passed.
Birthday.
You're right. 9 months from tax day. Unix time had passed. Unix time had passed 1,234,567,890 seconds, which apparently numbers people thought was cool.
How do you use time?
So
Wait,
the time it's so the Unix time. Anyway, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0 seconds.
What is Unix? I don't even understand what that is. That the possessive time of dismembered men? I don't understand.
Yeah,
what is a?
They certainly don't keep time like a grandfather clock. That's for sure.
Is it the thing that was ticking away in Union Square?
Unix time is a date and time representation widely used in computing. It measures time by the number of non-leap seconds that have elapsed since 0000 UTC on the 1st of January 1970 for the Unix epoch.
Weird. Nerds.
Okay, almost done.
Nerds.
North Korea conducted several missile tests.
I know what it was.
Oh, here we go. The first case of H1N1 swine flu in the U.S. was found in California. Swine. It would later be considered a pandemic, as cases would appear in more than 200 countries. Almost done. Oh, last one. The Time Person of the Year was awarded to Ben Bernanke, who was, of course, the chair of the Fed at the time. So that's right. A government employee won Time Person of the Year here in 2009 for helping come out of the financial crisis, a.k.a. convincing the government to give banks a bailout.
Yeah, that is that might actually be the reason we are where we are.
True.
Like very, very possible. That
I'll say this too. We're
going to go back there because they're releasing all those regulations. Like they're getting rid of all of those too that they brought in since the financial crisis. So the dumb fuckers can just go and do the same thing again.
But back to that.
Oh God.
Democrats had the House. Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House. And she wanted to stick her middle finger up at these banking institutions and say, fuck you, you deserve your losses. And Ben Bernanke convinced her, supposedly, to accept the fate for the sake of the country. And they said, okay. If only we did stick our fucking middle finger up to them, maybe there would have been some short-term, pain and such. But
Save the banks, just throw everyone who had any decision-making power in fucking jail. Like,
dude, there'd be
those
one
two
fucking
things can
bank.
be true.
If that's
Also, we could have put some guardrails up. Like, we'll give you this money if we tax you more. We'll give you this money if something. Nope,
Do you remember
no
when they
guardrails.
all flew in on their private jets? Do you remember that fucking jury saw that grand jury? That was fantastic. That was so apropos. They did not care at all. like not one fucking bit.
Yeah. Well, they knew. I mean, Clarence Thomas probably went on 4 vacations that week. I mean, hey,
He was
you guys
rock
ready?
hard. He was like, "Oh yeah."
He was like, "This is the best week of my life. This is so great."
Cha-ching! He got out early. He was like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah," making that bank.
His wife met them all at the private airports. Like, here's some lemonade. Are you guys ready to talk about this movie?
we probably should.
We can try. We can try to talk
Mr.
about it.
Ooh, and John watched this today, as did I. Dave watched it last night. We all watched the theatrical cut on Prime for free. I'm going to read not the IMDb description. The IMDb description actually, like, it almost made me mad. So even though I usually do it, instead of the IMDb description, I'm going to read, I don't know what this is, but it makes more sense. You ready? This is the description of Mr. Nobody, our movie for the featured conversation. In 2092, the last mortal human, Jared Leto, on Earth reflects on his long past and thinks about the lives he might have led. The IMDb one was like, picture this. A boy is at the train station. He's holding his dad. His mom is separating. She's getting on the train. He starts running after the train. He has a choice to make. Does he run into his mom's hands on the train? Does he stay with his dad? What happens if he makes it? And it's like, okay, chill out. But
That's also not to spoil anything. Like, good luck spoiling this movie. It doesn't even matter what I say. But
which timeline are you
I
going to
would be
spoil?
frustrated if I was the director of this and that was the blurb. Like, the whole movie builds to that realization.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't really matter, but like, it does technically climax with him talking about that, and it's literally in the fucking blurb, and it's not presented that way until that point in the movie.
Yeah.
What,
It's
making
kind
the
of
choice you mean
shitty
at
that
the train station?
I'm glad I didn't read the blurb.
Yeah, I mean, it does
Same.
kind of give away the goose there. Anyway,
which
all right.
blurb? So the last mortal, the retroflective, like Big Fish, Amadeus. That's really Big Fish, right? That's the one. That's
probably what
it
they should have
be,
gone
right?
with. I think that's most of the film's experience is what you're describing there. Most of the film feels like that. It doesn't feel like the IMDb blurb.
Well, we like to start with what'd you think, what'd you feel, but just to ease us into it while we're here, what did you think about the fact that it didn't start with that though? It actually started with multiple timelines crossing, and then all of a sudden you see the old guy. And I feel like it took a second for you to be like, oh, this is actually just a retrospective where they're interviewing the old man and he's trying to piece everything together. Like, it took 10, 15 minutes before I realized that that's what it was, because that's not how they started the movie. Did that work for you? Did you like that?
Dave, you want to kick us off with our...
You can just
Our
talk about how you liked
general?
it, but I just wanted to go because that's where we started.
Yeah. It's funny. There were a lot of logos at the start of this. I'm always a little wary.
They needed money from all those European fucking houses.
Yeah, it's like they have a lot of logos at the front or a lot of writers at the end of it. It's like, and you're like, yeah, you're in for a questionable experience. But I really dug this, and I don't kind of know why. Like, I was compelled to keep watching. I watched the whole thing in one sitting, no pause, no nothing. It just grabbed me, and for some reason, I really, really, really enjoyed this. And I'll touch on why a little bit later, but it's kind of like Sliding Doors meets Big Fish meets Black Mirror.
Right. Yeah.
And, that's all I've got. That's the closest I can get to explaining it. But they really didn't scrimp on the production design, and I appreciate that. But then
For sure.
after they went through that element, they went back to really grounded stories. And the fact that it was so jumbled really, for some reason, normally I don't go for that, but this really appealed to me in this context.
Nice,
the visual
man.
effects supervisor is the effects supervisor for the Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
They did a
We
great
want
freaking job.
Him.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not surprised, I guess, right? Yeah, it kind of has that feeling. I am very excited to hear you speak more to how much you enjoyed it, Dave. I feel like it was it is very, very imaginative and creative storytelling, and it's technically the way they do it is like objectively impressive. I mean, there's really interesting, inventive filmmaking happening, and there's because it is such an intertwine, changing all the time, from scenario to scenario, across timelines, across dimension, blah, blah, blah. You're not quite sure what it is, but it's not all happening in anywhere even close to any kind of linear kind of situation. Because of that, it almost raises the stakes even more on why that is so impressive in terms of its creativity. I wish I could say that made me feel emotionally moved, but if I'm being honest, it didn't. It kept me in my head. And this is already a concept piece. It's kind of a high concept when we talk about whether or not you're, generally speaking, when we're talking about colloquially in the fucking industry, if you will, you have a concept, which is you could kind of tell you what the movie is in like a sentence. Like, it could be something like a Top Gun, like those big action movies are technically like concept pieces. But it could also be a lot of sci-fi movies can sit in that concept space where the actual nitty-gritty of characters doesn't matter quite as much as the scenario. And that's kind of the easiest way of maybe saying what a concept piece is. And this one, I think, because of that, and unlike for me, and we can probably use that as kind of a fun contradiction, I feel like another concept piece that does feel very emotional for me is Eternal Sunshine. A very similar kind of idea of what is real and what is not, and it's relative to like choices, if you will, right? This one moved around in such a way that, yeah, I guess I want to stop actually. Jeff, I want to hear what you say. I wanted to feel more emotionally attached and not just very impressed by the filmmaking, which I was, and not just blown away by a lot of its technical achievement, and how I couldn't stop thinking about the high concept. Yeah, Jeff, what do you think?
Oh, that's just your pigeon superstition. I think I'm kind of directly.
I liked those moments.
I think I'm directly between you. It took me a second to get my feet set. I love the performances. I think especially all of the Jared Leto's characters named Nemo Nobody. I thought he was great, and then I actually really liked the kid who was like 15-year-old him. I thought he handled that, nuance.
Yeah, he was good.
I thought the performance
and the girl
was really
who played
good.
Anna.
That's
Anna's was Juno Temple.
Juno Temple from
fucking Ted Lasso.
Yeah, Ted Lasso. She's brilliant in everything.
Oh,
Vinyl
shit,
and everything.
Dude. Wow.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, of course, she's incredible.
I was I rewound it and showed my wife. I'm like, look, baby Keely.
Oh yeah.
Weird. She was great.
And how Diane Kruger was so close to having like what in 2009 she was in Inglourious Bastards and this about to have these two supporting roles, and then this movie comes out 5 years later.
That was she was good too. She was really good.
And we love Sarah Polley as adult Elise, of course. She won an Oscar for Women Talking, a movie
Poor Sarah. God, they really put her through it in this one, didn't they? Not fun to go to work on this one, was it, for Sarah Polley?
We want you to play a manic depressive, but we're not going to call you that.
Tough stuff.
Okay, so it took me a second to get my feet set. I kind of didn't know what the movie wanted to be. It takes some time to get all of. So not only is it sliding doors, each sliding door has the portals, and they tell you right off the bat. They talk about string theory, and then they say, what if one linear is actually temporal? What if it's not just 8 linear, one temporal? I don't fucking know string theory. And I was like, okay, but just it takes time to get that. So yes, it's hard to feel emotionally connected and compelled when I'm just like trying to get my feet planted on the ground of this movie, for sure. And the old guy wasn't going to do it for me, even though he was charming. It wasn't Amadeus. I love the old guy in Amadeus, where as soon as he goes, that wasn't me, that was Mozart. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah, here we go. This guy's got an axe to grind. I didn't get that from this old guy, but it's okay. I got it. I think the Juno Temple with the 15-year-old really helped. I think that relationship was really interesting. I love it. Mm-hmm. I love the way she was really actually, this is like one of the best things I've ever seen her, and she's amazing. Just the nuance of being so in love with him, and then as soon as the parents come, he's not my brother, and she storms away like a regular old teenager. I was like, oh my God, this is so interesting. And then I totally lost. And then it cuts away from it. Yeah. And then I totally lost the emotional connection for like the second half of the movie. And I was kind of like, I don't know what I was looking for, but I don't know if it's like a want. I don't know if it's something that we're looking for. I don't know if he's looking for catharsis. For some reason, it was hard to stay there. It was hard to stay in that impassioned place that I was in for that chunk of the movie. So I do feel like I was emotionally connected, but not the whole way. And so therefore the movie started to drag. But I love the concept and I love the way that it was done. I'll take it. I'm happy I saw it. I'm very happy I saw it. And I hope other people see too.
You know what the saving grace was for me? Like, I feel like it started to get into lockstep when the reporter snuck into his room and started recording him on the old reel-to-reel. And
that was the crazy reporter from outside,
because
right?
Every time you started to ask questions in your mind, they popped to the reporter, and like, I'm talking, this happened to me a lot. They popped to the reporter who asked exactly the same bloody question. It's like, so which one? Like, which one of these is the truth?
That's true.
Yeah, like, and he was like your voice in the film. And that went a long way to keeping me watching, because I was like, all right, where is this going and how's it getting there?
When you saw Big Fish, did it get frustrating? You know, when you're trying to when you see like when they cut to that and you're like, what is happening? And it's like, well, why don't they just tell us what's happening? You know what I mean? Like it's designed to confuse you, and it's like the self-aware filmmaker.
This kind of felt like
Jaco van Dormael.
This kind of felt more like Beau is Afraid with 2 extra timelines.
Beau. But you didn't like Beau.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, I don't like Big Fish very much.
Oh, you
either.
did. John did. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I don't dislike it, but it didn't. That movie seemed to cast a spell on a lot of people when they came out, and it didn't do it for me. I was frustrated by what you're talking about, because again, and I've said this before, and this is just my opinion. I'm not saying this makes a film good or bad, but whenever I find myself kind of crossing my arms a little bit because I'm in my head, because I know the film is wanting me to be thinking about what's happening,
right,
as opposed to kind of really being drawn along where my thought is just happening automatically, maybe right before or right after what the character is experiencing, because I'm mostly just responding emotionally to what's happening. Whenever I feel myself, in that situation, I always get a little frustrated, and I just find myself waiting to be moved by something again. I do want to point this out because I want to give him credit. And we'll say him because the same guy, Jaco van Dormael, I guess that's how you say him. He wrote and directed this, so sounds like, you can't explain this to somebody else. This is totally out of his head, right? I mean, Can you imagine explaining this to somebody?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to read the script. It was probably bad shit.
They stopped writing and signed the papers to have you fucking committed.
Yeah, insane. I do want to definitely give him credit for creating the stories and timelines, because like, each of these versions of his life that could have been, I found all of them pretty fucking compelling when they were younger and when he was older. I just wish he would have used one to explore this concept with. The same concept could have been explored, and I would have been more emotionally attached if he had played with the timeline and contradictions of what could have been and what could not have been with one relationship. I would have felt everything I think he wanted me to feel, and I'm not trying to rewrite his movie, but every time he cut away to try to heighten the stakes on his concept by confusing us, I wasn't more moved by the concept. I was frustrated. And in it, unfortunately, this movie builds to a single scene with a single line where he delivers his entire thesis, and whether or not it worked for you, that's a rough place to find yourself in as a storyteller. You're telling audiences it's going to make sense once I get you to this point and I tell you why I made this. And you're either going to agree with it or you're not. And I just feel like you should never put an audience in that position. It's like a twist. It's like, don't build everything up to that, because then the entire experience is hinging on something that's result oriented as opposed to it being inherently experiential. The way I felt every single time those 15-year-olds were around each other. I just wanted to stay with them. And I don't know. It was really frustrating. I had a frustrating viewing experience, to be honest.
Dave, hit spoiler. Hit spoilers.
Yeah, okay,
hit spoilers.
All right, we're turning spoilers.
Watch the movie. It's or I don't know how you could spoil this movie, but was the line you're talking about? I know Dave's about to go. The line is just like, it doesn't matter which. They're all of those are real and they're all amazing, and they're all wonderful.
Yeah,
that scene, right? All right, Dave.
I'm still trying to find the damn spoiler alert. It's not on a button because I don't have room on my panel at the moment. There it is.
Oh, I see.
I'll read the quote. He says, every path is the right path. Everything could have been anything else, and it would have just as much meaning. Which is, I think he says it's a Tennessee Williams. I didn't look up to see if that was true. I don't know, man. I feel like whenever you have to tell your audience what something is, you might. I'm not saying you've done something wrong. That just is the trap of concept pieces sometimes, that you have to literally explain it. And that's always that's a tough place to be in, and it's going to work with some people, and it's not. I really don't like being in my head, and I felt like I was, happens in by that point, right? I was so in my head. Yeah. That kind of happens in Interstellar. Interstellar is like, it's love, and you're like, oh, I wish you didn't say that. And those are the worst parts of that movie, aren't they?
Well, I have this whole point where, like, the movie hinged on that one train scene that we keep mentioning with the kid running. Yeah. And, like, that is the starting point for all the timelines. And I didn't realize what was going on or get it until the end when he says that, and I realized that this kid, and they've been hitting at it the whole time, the kid couldn't make a fucking decision, so he, like, explored 3 possibilities.
Which is so he's actually
the homeless guy, and then this Anna's actually still happy to see him later. It's like, yes, you're alive, you're homeless, you have no money. This is awesome. Let's make out and be fucking together. Well, that's like, I like the big house guy.
I would like to talk. That's the thread he chose in the end.
Yeah, I'm trying to be as constructive here as I can.
Also, I really don't like when they're like, we're figments of the kid's imagination. I was like, okay.
I was on board for that.
I just wish they didn't say it. I just wish they didn't say it.
The pitch, of course, so many times. But let's try to be specific with that, because there are so many, when I was saying creative and inventive elements, there were so many things that felt like, it kind of did feel like he was like, oh, that'll be cool. Oh, let's put it in there. That'll be cool. So, like, Dave, what you just said is cool. The essence of this movie, which that is a powerful idea. I love that idea. A boy, I mean,
who hasn't at one point wished they couldn't go back to, like, when they were 6 and know all the decisions they'd already made?
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't really give a shit about that, but I do feel really bad for children who are put in the middle of adults not putting them in bad decisions. Like,
I'd be writing a little thing called E.T. at that point.
Sure. All right. So the point I'm making is that you kind of hinted at, like, a version of it too. Like, it kind of got a while for us to get there. And we start with the old man. And obviously he's trying to, like, create, like, a little bit of cold open scenarios where he doesn't want you to have your footing yet. I totally understand that. But for him to then choose to take you back to, like, before he was born, and, like, that kind of stuff took me away ultimately. Once we finally get to the end of this movie and you realize what it's about, that it was the crux of that decision that actually stopped his life, and where he was stuck in that moment and couldn't really escape it. Bullshit he was thinking about before he was born. I'm sorry, but, like, there were things like that just made me like, that has nothing to do with what he's thinking about right now. If he's stuck in that place, the relationships and his fear of love and fear of abandonment is all that should have been explored. That is what he would have been freaking the fuck out about in that moment. If you're actually trying to make it emotionally logical, the other stuff started to feel superfluous, and it kind of just felt like, wouldn't this be cool? And that was frustrating.
Right. Well, I think even for me, I'm with you. I think that's why I wish they didn't just say, oh, it's a figment of it's just him as a typewriter writing all this. Because I just feel like it should have just been sci-fi. And just let it be sci-fi. And there's plenty of sci-fi is grounded in what we would consider to be reality.
The typewriter was a fantasy too.
But I thought the whole idea is he leaves that train sequence and then he begins writing this fantasy novel, and that is what
never left that train sequence.
He never left the train sequence.
He split into 3 and perceived 3 different futures to decide which
he's just a boy stuck there on the tracks.
But he is typing up the story. That's where the transcript comes from.
One of the future possibilities is the person typing the story.
Yeah, I think that is, and unfortunately, again, with high concept, he literally said this to us. So I think what Dave and I are saying is, he told us it's literally true. He is stuck in that same moment where he's on the tracks and the train is pulled away. He's stuck there between his mom and his dad.
I thought he chose the third one. I thought he chose the third one, but he's writing what would have happened if he didn't.
He told us he was literally on the mind of a 9-year-old boy.
Yeah,
he literally said, "You don't exist. I don't exist."
The whole point
of it was he had to live. Is still going forward.
Yeah, he had to live until his death to know which route to take.
All right. Anyway,
which was all just a figment of his imagination. He was all just imagining this stuff, which also a little bit. Sorry, but the detail again. I'm just saying, like the approach to the storytelling. It felt like it was so incredibly detailed that if the point of entry was going to be, this is not just entry, the beginning and the end is a child at that age dealing with that particular obstacle. I don't even understand the logic in him imagining all those other possibilities. It stops, for me, it feels like it would stop with love, commitment, abandonment, rejection, just those ideas of, am I ever going to be okay? And it just went into such finite, incredible minutia. And I'm not talking about the relationships. Those felt real to me. I liked that. I wish it just would have concentrated in a lot more on one, if you want to, but also if it's just going to be those, if you wanted to go with those three, the sci-fi stuff like really fucking pulled me out of it. He wanted this to be emotional. When we got to that scene, he wanted it to be emotional. And I think it wasn't because of that stuff.
But it would have been for me if it was just as, I mean, you could easily just do Superman, which is, is scientific in its fantasy. So you could call it a sci-fi and just have it be him in the fucking log cabin he shows up to in the middle of nowhere. And like, that could be 90% of your Superman movie. It could be totally grounded in reality. For me, it would just be like, if you're going to have him do the babies thing at the beginning, and I want to know what that casting call is. We're going to be in diapers, and then we're going to be in this weird murky like puddle shit, and some beautiful women are going to like touch their forehead. I don't know. It's really strange, but like that would make sense. And then this idea that he can see the future or he can see the past, and why doesn't the smoke in the cigarette go back into the cigarette? And it's like stuff that would seems obvious, but it's at the same time they could easily make a compelling case. Now you have these relationships. To me, it's the pavilion, the play. It's also similar to this, like, can you create a world, invent a world? How do you go back in time, et cetera? So it's basically like, these are real, but he can see the future and the past. So like maybe they can weave that around. But ultimately, I just felt like the whole thing was a figment of his imagination. And that kind of lost it for me. Because just leaving me wondering about that, I was fine. I was great. And that's what got me through more than half the movie is as soon as they started answering things, we're talking from the past, like now we're in the future talking in the past. But while I was watching, I didn't have any of those thoughts.
See, by the time we got to the point where they're revealing that, the performances that I'd seen already had enough street cred for me to go with them on that.
And I was basically like, those kids were one more thing to ground me, but yeah. And even Leto was good. There were a couple times where I was like, it was too strange in the future. Some of those run-ins, the one at the train station, and then there were the kids.
God, can you imagine him before every scene being like, where am I?
Yeah.
Emotionally, like what just happened to me? Like what?
Yeah,
where? I cannot imagine the AD making the schedule of this movie makes me want to have a fucking have a heart attack. I cannot imagine making this movie. Like props to them for figuring out a way to schedule and actually film this insanity.
Well, he finished the script in like 2001. So he had 8 years. It took him 6 years to get filming. They started casting in 2007. So like you're talking years. I'm hoping he just like had them all laid out and was like, here's your timeline, here's where you are. And that way it makes it easier for them.
No, it's just like, it'd be like everything everywhere. Like that stuff is so cleanly designed, but you still, as an actor, it kind of doesn't matter if there's a design. You still really need to be like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Where am I coming from?
Like you need,
am I a 1 or a 3 or a 5 at this, like,
I feel like you need someone like Jared Leto that is so shameless too, because there are probably some days on set where he's like, just so you know, as my co-star, you're probably going to wonder if we did a shit job today, because the scene is going to end. The characters are going to be confused, and we as the actors are going to be confused. And it's just, that's how it has to be. I'm going to be like, is that your kid? Okay.
Time to act, my talking props.
See you around. Yeah, that's right. It's like, and it's just like so weird. And then like, that was like one of those I have this at the college students all the time where they're like, we felt a little weird, but people said it was good. And it's like, sometimes you kind of feel what your character felt. And as the actor, you just have to sit there and be like, I feel weird, but I think that means it worked. You know what I mean? You have to have that wisdom. It's like, there were probably very few days where Jared Leto left the set and was like, yes, we fucking nailed that. Right?
I think very few times in his life he's ever done that, because he's a constant fixer.
Oh, come on.
No, he puts out fantastic performances, but he goes home and like analyzes it, and then like you can tell, like when he did Morbius, like that was just refined and refined and refined and refined. They took it too far
until it was perfect.
Morbius. And
endless
let's look at nuts. Yeah.
I kind of wish you guys, and again, you're not. I could not stop thinking when I was watching this, and I don't think I'm reaching here. I could not stop thinking, about Eternal Sunshine and Amelie. Like these kinds of
Amelie.
like very creative, jumping all over the place French movies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, but
I could use more
like
of the
a
talking
fucking
to
episode
camera.
of Family Guy. There's like cutaways like crazy in that thing.
So
you're right. I could use more
that,
talking to the camera. Yeah.
One ingredient that both of those had that I think make that kind of you're not supposed to care that much, like the fact that we're not expecting you to care so much, you'll eventually start to care because there's a little bit of insanity and emotion will sneak up on you. I kind of wish this had, and maybe it just didn't work for me. I wish it had more comedy. I wish it would have felt more funny in
more
general.
Comedy
there
or
was some comedy.
Was there?
There was some. I thought there was some. It just wasn't. It didn't lead with that. It was like every now and then there would be a little comedy there, but it felt like it wanted to be. It felt like the old man thought that it was funny, and that there was some comedy intentional there. But the rest of the stuff, I feel like there was maybe a sense of humor that would have really brought some levity to this. That would have made all of it go down a little bit easier, as opposed to desperately searching from scene to scene for something to care about and something to latch onto. Like I felt like I was supposed to be doing that every scene. And then I kind of just started giving up.
You know what one of my favorite scenes was? The scene where it might have been the first time they slept in the same room, Juno Temple and 15-year-old. And then the next day, like they hear the parents up. And it's like,
that was great.
Where
there
are
you go. That's
like,
a good moment of levity.
And then he comes out, and then you basically watch it like Ozu style with the doors. I think low shot too.
That was an Ozu shot.
And then he like runs into his. I think it was like a low angle. And then he runs into his room. And then he runs, like, he tries to run into the bathroom. So he's like going door to door and they're like closing doors and opening doors and the mom's opening doors and you hear the voiceover. And then after they're so romantic and they're obviously like crazy about each other. And then Juno Temple goes, have you seen Nemo? Have you seen your brother? And she goes, he's not my brother. And it's like after being so like, it's like that the teenager like hating their sibling, which is great. And then Nemo, and then he goes into the bathroom, flushes the toilet and comes back out. And then all his mom does is go, oh, hey, Nemo, there you are. And then just like moves on. Like, so if that's the kind of comedy you were talking about, I also felt that way about that too. Because Jared Leto, I got none of that, but it wasn't his fault because he kept waking up in catharsis. That's the only. That's another thing too. He kept waking up. He was either as soon as he woke up and he wasn't in catharsis, his fucking Jeep went off the side of the mountain and he's drowning or something. And then he's waking up and he's being murdered in a tub or something. And it's like I could have used some more levity moments with it, or he's having awkward interactions with people in his life or something. So he had a tough burden in this movie. It was not easy for him.
Here, let me pinpoint. Yes to everything you said. I also really liked the tone of the way he handled the parents. I liked Ron Weasley or Mr. Weasley and
Ron
what's her
Weasley.
name? Not Ron, but the father, right?
Dude, that's not Mr. Weasley, yo. That is that's Luna Lovegood's dad, Rhys Ifans. And also, I fucking love him. He is in House of the Dragon, of course. I love Rhys Ifans. He's a good actor.
Yeah.
He's
it was great. I liked the tone there too.
Jack would like him. He says he doesn't like to talk about the magic of acting. He says to him, the magic of acting is when you're at the pub talking to people about life. That's where you learn about the magic of acting. He's like, I just do my job and then I go to the pub, and that's me as an actor. Come on, Jack would love him.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'm trying to pinpoint this to make it constructive. Would this have worked better for you guys because we can all agree, right, that Jared Leto as a modern, whatever you want to call it, present day, full grown Jared Leto, not the old man, not the child version, wherever he was either totally in that reality or something was happening to him in that reality where he was being confused by it. Right? Like he was being killed or whatever. Something crazy was happening. Or he was waking up out of it or something. Would it have worked better for you if the old man was also that confused and did not understand what was happening?
What was he looking for? I could have used more of what does the old man want? His
certainty
before he dies.
We may have just gotten there for why I think I was actually so frustrated. That is the entire setup because it opens with him. That's the whole like wraparound. Your vehicle
really
for telling the story. Yeah, which is cool, but I think that may have been what really didn't. It set everything up for me to be a little bit like, but this doesn't actually line up with what you're saying the story is. Why does he know that this is happening? Why is he so confident that he lived all these different versions? If he's still one of those versions, he's still one of them, isn't he? Like that was really confusing to me. And I think I didn't understand why it was confusing when I was watching it, but there was something like, I don't know. So answer that. What do you think, Dave? Would that have made more sense for you if he was a part of the confusion? Like that was another version of it?
I mean, it was kind of...
Dave liked the movie, though, so we don't want to yuck his yum.
The movie. I liked that he knew what was going on at the end because he'd achieved like that level of wisdom. And I mean, the question is, which one of those characters was he? Like, which one of the timelines was he? And
is that the question? I thought he already said he's none of them.
Yeah, what was he? What
did you guys? That's what I'm saying. I thought he was a typewritten out thing, and you're sitting there like, no, the kid never left. And it's like, so if it is, which one he is? He doesn't exist.
I mean, none of it actually happened.
Even though he's telling somebody you have to live to be this year.
Yeah,
none of it actually.
None
happened.
of it actually happened.
What about him? I thought him as the scruff guy at, like waiting for her, and then she finally shows up in the little chalked circle. I thought that was actually real.
No, that's the future that he decided on. So that very last scene might have been real.
Yeah, so that is real. Okay.
Yeah, the very last scene of that timeline might have been real, but nothing up until...
That Jared Leto is not making it to 118.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
It was 3 very unique journeys that I ultimately enjoyed.
Okay.
And they dealt with, love, depression and jealousy very effectively.
What do you think his was with, what was her name, who he drowned in the pool with?
Yeah, that was the jealousy angle, because she's like, you're never here. You're always thinking of something else.
That was definitely the weakest one for me. I felt like that was very...
She didn't get much time either. Like, she turned up and then turned up briefly again.
She didn't get much time. And I thought that was, it's a shame too, because I thought that was one of the only timelines where you really did eventually, he tells you after the fact, a young man, a young version of himself that stayed with his father wanted that life. He dreamt up the goals to be rich and have a pool,
big house,
and
have a pool,
kids, and
learn
a
how to
big house and a red convertible.
He probably should have learned how to swim if he got that.
And he became miserable because of it. He was, he was depressed.
That's true.
That letter, that she found by his bedside.
I don't know anybody named Elise.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the letter. Are you guys? Wait, are you done with that thought? You can play that out, John.
I'm just repeating myself.
Just for a second, the cinematography wise, let's talk about transitions.
Oh man, let's talk technical, because that shit is awesome.
The transitions were amazing, like especially the train one, where it just catches the train and then comes back, and I'm like, oh wow! Like
that kid probably had to do that so many times.
Yeah.
There was a Zemeckis contact mirror transition early on, where it comes around him to the mirror and then follows him back. There was I really enjoyed
Contact. Let's get all the sci-fis in there. Let's go.
I really enjoyed the Sarah Polley on stage transition into her actually being in the barbershop.
Yeah. And when the camera turned around, but it seemed like it was in a one shot. Yeah.
I think I could guess how they did it, because it looked like they sped up as they were pushing it. I think I know what they did, but it doesn't matter. There was a bunch of stuff that was like...
where the hand just comes down and puts a fucking model car in the scene.
That was cool. The callback to the shoe, stepping on the old
weird,
house.
It was a good callback. The foot was weird.
There were some. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying it worked, but in terms of technical, there was a bunch of stuff that he did that ended up just being fun to look at. So even someone like me, and I really will say this as
when the big foot came down the house, all I could think of was Monty Python, but that was the other thing for me that didn't work as intended.
Just the usual kind of maybe
short film,
maybe almost cheesy things, but like if Jared Leto's face would turn a little bit, and then all of a sudden he's in a bus in a different timeline or something. Or like,
what about when they're making out against the wall and they roll over and they're in the bed?
Yeah,
there was a bunch of that kind of stuff that was really fun. There were some really obvious ones that still work really well, like the 3 marriages with cars just swiping and they're in a different place on the steps. Right. Some real basic stuff like that. So if I guess I do want to just put this out there for the listeners, Positive Film Cast podcast. Even if you were like me and you really I just didn't feel moved by this film, there's a lot to There's a lot to see.
I was about to say something good. Oh my God, it's amazing. It's stunning.
There's a lot to see. Yeah. There's a lot of beautiful interesting, inventive cinematography specifically, which it won a bunch of awards for, like the technical and the cinematography awards. It seemed to clean up quite a bit around the world.
This director, by the way, won the Camera d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, not for this film, but he won the Camera, which is you're the best first feature. Wow. He won for his movie Toto the Hero.
Cool.
In 1991. So anyway, I don't know why that matters, but I just fuck it.
No, there was just a lot of really, again, like designing this movie. I'm sure he designed the hell out of it, but
I got a headache just thinking about it.
I know it really does. Like, it's overwhelming to think about how they approached making it. Like, I'm sure they designed it so they knew what they wanted to do. They kind of had to because it felt so controlled. But the actual scheduling and execution of that level of intricate kind of different camera movements and production, and I mean, it really is a feat. I fucking loved the way he fell off his bike and hit that tree and died. Or he didn't die. He went into a coma. The way they captured, I rewound it. I was like, I got to remember how he did that. That was so effective. And I don't think they actually show like a wide shot of him like actually falling. I think it was in close and tight and like rolling camera and then just a kid like hitting a tree. It was so visceral.
It's Europe. They just shot a kid into a tree.
Honestly, you think they would.
After he slipped on, what did he slip on? He slipped on a leaf?
The leaf.
Yeah, that fucking malicious leaf.
Fucking slipped on a leaf. Yeah, and the car slips on a banana or something. Like, yeah, like it was obviously meant to mirror the Jared Leto death with the car and the drowning. All of these things that we saw at the beginning of the movie, right? We saw some of those drowning sequences before the old man really even comes into play. And then you realize, also, again, the sci-fi thing, it was so interesting where he's the last mortal and sex is obsolete. And I thought that stuff was so interesting. But ultimately, none of that even matters to this conversation because I don't know what the timeline is. And it's like, well, I feel like we could learn something. I don't know. I feel like there was more for that old guy, which is funny because he had good camera time. And I thought, I'm assuming that was Jared Leto. He did a good job as the old man, for sure. Yeah. But can I say this, though? First of all, a watch doesn't go tick-tock. When they said, your watch is going tick-tock, I wanted to strangle that fucking kid. No, it didn't. A watch goes tick, 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 tick. It's not on a fucking pendulum. A pendulum is tick-tock, tick-tock, tick. It goes back and forth. Don't you fucking tell me a watch is a tick-tock. Don't you fucking do it. I hate that shit. Stop.
That's what bothered you about this?
No, but how funny is this? Wait. Shit. So, do you remember the first time that his mom has a gentleman caller over for dinner, and he tells him exactly how he's going to die? Again, the future stuff. I could have used more of that.
That was good.
But then he doesn't die, right?
Are you? I mean,
we never see it.
As we know. Yeah, we don't know. But are you surprised that this kid is going to be a bad dinner guest when that day his mom came home and he had faked his own suicide with a fucking meat cleaver and ketchup all over the kitchen floor, and the mom just walks by him
fall off the ledge
and basically is like, "So I have a man coming over tonight, and I hope you treat him well." And I mean, at this point, remember we made this speech before. It's like at a certain point, you have to be like, "Why did Trump fire me?" It's like, because you did this to yourself. It's like, Mom, he literally just faked his own suicide with ketchup, and you're asking him to be a good dinner guest that night.
That kind of stuff was kind of what I was talking about. Of like, wouldn't that be cool? Or it's somewhere between "wouldn't that be cool" and "the horse is dead a long time ago." Like the idea of like, oh, he's a child that is being ignored by his mother. Like, then show me that. Make me feel what he's feeling. Don't just show him doing that.
Tell the mother like, "Hey, he's coming over. Like, please don't do that." You know, she talked to him like it was totally normal. I think this is his first. I think this was the director's first English film too. So I don't want to do what we talked about before with like the language barrier thing. But like, I wonder if some of that. I'm sure he had script editors. He spent a lot of time on this. But
dude, I bet the French loved this movie. Like this feels like it's got
it did get a substantial standing ovation.
Did it really at the Cannes Film Festival, Venice?
Yeah, I think Cannes. I think it was Cannes. They're known for standing ovations.
When did it come out in Cannes?
Because you got to scroll through 46 states to find it. But
I think it went. Honestly, I think it went to all of them. Venice and Toronto. I was right. Fuck yeah.
I might have been Toronto.
In 2009, it did Venice and Toronto, and then it did something in Spain, Norway, the Stockholm International Film Festival, something in Belgium, the French-speaking region of Switzerland. Fucking shit, dude. I don't know. I actually don't think this one went to Cannes.
Okay, yeah, I think it might have been Toronto.
So,
cool.
are any other standout scenes? Any other performances or anything that really got you?
From a technical standpoint, I loved when they were building the ocean.
Oh yeah, it was interesting.
That was a unique kind of vision.
Like Minecraft. It was ahead of Minecraft. Now
Yeah.
the Minecraft generation, it would be like,
Yeah, what do you think that meant when they started showing like that? They started showing when he was in Sarah Polley and he looked out the window and they were pulling the road up.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that stuff was meant to symbolize? Was he
was starting to,
for a second?
He was starting to disassemble the worlds, yeah, because he didn't need them anymore.
and that's the smoke going back in the cigarette. Again, I wish they cleared up all these metaphors because it was all there. Does the smoke go back into in the cigarette? This is him putting the road back in the cigarette, so to speak. You know, I think I don't know why that matters, but that's how I interpret it.
So he's lived all of these lives in his imagination so that he can know that it's okay to make any of these choices?
Well,
Do you think
it says the only, like, sometimes the best choice is no choice at all. And so he spends each
Gen Z would love this movie.
making a different choice to decide which
They can
choice to
sit
make,
there
and it holds him up in his mind till the day he dies. And then he finally makes a choice.
Yeah, that does sound like the stupid fucking thought of a 9-year-old. No offense, but
It is. Exactly.
like,
the director nailed it. All right. Well,
he nailed it. Yeah.
talk to a 9-year-old?
Yeah.
They're not fucking
Oh my
smart.
god, dude. Oh my god.
I'm very happy I saw this movie. I'm never going to watch it again. I am happy I saw it, and I hope other people, maybe I'll have a conversation about it someday. But remember how bloody that fucking pigeon was that hit the windshield? Fucking so bloody. Oh my god, there was so much blood on the windshield. Yes, when he drives the car off the road.
Yeah.
It's a bird that
I think it's like a sparrow. It's not a pigeon.
Whatever it is.
It's not
I
New
know,
York
but they had
City.
the pigeon at the beginning. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
You shut up.
I love that little pigeon thing. I loved that little pigeon intro. I thought that was cool.
I love it when he was like, it's called pigeon superstition. I was like, is that what it's called? I love that when like really highbrow. I listen to Paul Giamatti's podcast every now and then, and his like co-host is a philosopher, and he was like, there's this concept. It's called the evil complex or something. And we're like, that seems pretty simple. It seems like they could literally be in a Disney movie. Like, I think a 3-year-old would be like, okay, I think I know what this is. I see where you're going.
Universal's opening a theme park about that.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway. Anything else you want to say about this? I feel like we covered some good ground here, huh?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if this was a
I was
Pixar
trying to make a
movie?
Gen Z quote.
Oh,
It could be a
Jesus.
Pixar movie.
And they were trying to teach kids that you shouldn't make decisions. Jeff, you said the Gen Z
Yeah, sex is
love
obsolete.
this. Like,
Well, I kept being like, sex is obsolete. It's like everybody was just screwing and loving, and now like sex is obsolete, and
quasi-immortal.
They're quasi-immortal, and there's cameras filming everything.
And what was it like? Yeah, when you needed
the best
to procreate.
the best choice is not choosing.
Yeah,
that
whereas
sounds like a Gen
in
Z
reality,
dream
all
too.
we got was fucking cameras filming everything. Where's the rest of it?
Yeah. At least they're not buzzing in my face. I would fucking destroy
True.
so many of those goddamn
Yeah.
cameras.
Well, you've seen people take a shotgun to drones.
That would have been really funny if as the old guy's as the old guy's dying and that camera comes up to film him, he just fucking crushed that camera. That would have been really fun.
Pulls out the handgun.
Anyway.
This is the last thing I'll say, and I really will shut up. I want to end on a positive note for this guy. I loved the way he filmed, and I loved every time we went back to the most important scene. I loved the train scene.
Hmm.
I thought that
I love the
was
train scene too.
really good, and I'm so
Why did they
glad
make
he
the kid
returned
choose?
to it. You what?
Why did he make that kid choose?
Really fucked up. And
Because
And they do,
fucking
you know-
parents do that.
God, do they?
Courts don't
Yeah,
let you
mine
do that
did.
anymore.
Yeah. Oh, Dave,
Yours did?
Dave, guess what? You don't exist.
Yeah,
This
right.
isn't real.
Yeah.
We never lived together. Therese is some 9-year-old down the street in Adelaide, or Melbourne,
that's-
wherever
yeah,
the fuck you're.
That's fucking disturbing.
I would love the timeline where Therese has an Adelaide accent.
I just imagine a 9-year-old
not even-
talking with the potty mouth she has.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, that definitely exists in Australia.
You know what? I want them to.
Not remake with the potty mouth.
Stealing cars. Get fucked.
I want to remake this movie from Dave's point of view.
Oh my god, that would be hilarious, and that would be the movie I would like. It would be funny as fuck, and they would have a lot more cursing.
Giant fucking spider. You and 15-year-old stepsister Therese, not really stepsister, would be doing it, and then a giant spider would come, and you two would have to free. It'd be awesome. Okay.
On that note,
before we make this weird, let's
before we make this weird,
let's go into the next segment here. What you've been watching, but first we got to spin the wheel so we can talk about what we're doing next week. Dave, you want to spin?
All right, let's see how we go. You want to take a guess or not?
John?
78.
I feel like we're going back in time too. I'm going to go 61.
Go.
All right, 1900s. Is that a 9 or a 6?
Right.
9 or a 6? It's a 6. Oh my God, I was so close.
Oh,
62.
So close.
1962. We're not going to sit here and Google movies, but I'm very happy at 62 because the list of choices is smaller after 2019 and 2009. I love we have 5 movies we can pick. Okay. We're going to tell you what it is at the end of the episode. You got to stick around. We're going to do what you've been watching. John, we're not going to start with you. We're going to start with Dave. Dave, what you been watching?
Good stuff.
I got segue. That was awesome. Yeah. Did you go to class for that fucking throw?
Honestly.
Shut up. Did I go to class for that throw?
I have started on season 2 of Severance, and I just got up to one of the big reveals of the season, and I'm fucking hooked now.
Nice. Very good.
Yeah, I'm about 4 or 5 episodes in. Everyone complaining that it went slow. I feel like it went slow for a reason, and now it's just.
So what was the last one you saw?
I think it was episode 4.
Was that the outdoor one or no?
No, the one after that.
You saw the one after the one where they were outdoors?
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're caught up then, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
I think you're caught up.
Oh,
maybe there's one more. You have one more.
It's really
There's
good.
one more. You have one more. There's the outdoor one, and then there's 2 since that have happened. I'm with you. I'm with
really
you.
need
The
to
outdoor episode,
rewatch.
in a nutshell, the first 20 minutes was so slow. I was like, oh my God, too slow. And then the second half of that episode was it. It was great. And then I'm off and running ever since then.
I really need to watch the last episode of season 1. I don't remember it.
That's it.
Well, there's a character in this season from season 1 that I don't remember from season 1. I'm like, she was like, remember me? I was like, no. The show came out 3 years ago.
It was a long time ago. Anything else?
That is the problem. That's all I've had time to watch this week. It's been a fucking busy week.
Good for you.
Happy for you, John.
I watched episode 1 of White Lotus. I'm all in. Let's see what happens. I watched the last episode of The Pit. I'm assuming they'll have 12 for a 12-hour shift. So this is episode 8, I believe now. So
it ends in April, so we have a couple more weeks to go for sure.
I really, it was a sad episode, but I really liked this episode. It was very good. And
was it the 8th episode or 7th? I can't remember. Was it 8th or 7th?
8th.
Ah, fuck, I'm one behind.
Sure
okay, keep going.
It was a good one. And I watched Luigi Mangione. I know there's a bunch of docs out, but I think it's on Max.
He released a how-to mockumentary.
No, that's terrible. I think I knew about it as much as the average person who maybe didn't follow it like crazy on.
You certainly know more than his defense lawyer if you've watched that.
No.
Because they're spewing.
What are you referring to?
Apparently there's some documents and shit in the documentary that the defense didn't have access to, and she's been on the news for days going, why the fuck did this documentary have this?
Fucking
and we didn't.
Eric Adams, piece of absolute human garbage. They got the cameras and then they just started talking about the case with the cameras. But some of that information was supposed to remain sealed, protected from public consumption yet. It hadn't even been disclosed to the defense.
Yeah, no discovery.
So therefore, she's literally already been like, there should be a mistrial. Literally, the mayor of fucking New York is discussing things about the case that I don't know publicly to cameras while the case is theoretically in process. I hope he gets, he shouldn't get thrown out based on the stories. He probably should stay in jail. But can you imagine? Jesus. Well, I already talked about the Gorge, and I'm 1 episode behind on the Pit, which I really like. And we rewatched Along Came Polley yesterday on a little date night, excursion.
The best man has arrived.
Okay, best man is in the house. Yeah,
in the house.
He Philip Seymour Hoffman that's the best pratfall I've ever seen in a movie. I don't give a shit what everybody says. It is the best.
You're not the first person to say that to me.
It's one of the best, and he does it in time. The best man is in the house. And then he falls and he hits so hard, and they talk about waxing the floor. So we did that.
Hard.
And I also saw
the
White
Jesus
Lotus
Christ Superstar sequence. So funny.
I'm also going to be playing the role of Jesus. I was just, I was feeling it and I wanted to go with it. And I'm the star. I'm the star of the show. Judas. The movie's actually pretty good. And then fucking The White Lotus, which of course the next episode drops right now. But I was in, right? It's different. The shooting was way different than the first two episodes. So that was crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm in.
It is different. I think Mike White is going to satisfy us. I have faith. So
I think
I'm excited.
so too. And apparently he's got at least one more in him. So I can't wait. He's going to bring this home and give us at least one more. All right, let's go ahead. Let's choose what we're going to do next week. So listen to 2 Seconds of DOS Sign. Don't go anywhere, film fans. And we're going to tell you what we're talking about next week. Let's go. And we're back.
Oh, we're back.
We're back.
We have decided we've already covered a couple films from 1962. So if you love your 1962 film year, go back and listen to our conversation about The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, To Kill a Mockingbird.
Baby Jane was such a good episode. We released it twice.
Baby Jane was such a good episode. Thank you, Dave, for we released it. Wait, I thought I was in charge of that. You re-released it?
No, it happened by accident.
Oh, well, we love that. People,
you guys.
We are talking about Days of Wine and Roses. There's no Days of Wine and Roses, which was recently made into a Broadway musical that I saw, which I'm very happy about. But Days of Wine and Roses, starring Jack Lemmon, directed by Blake what?
Blake Edwards,
John?
and also starring Lee Remick.
Hell yeah. It's about alcoholism, but it's also a comedy from 1962. Let's go. Get your subs up, people. See you soon, film fans.